Hello there. I'm Erika Chavez, Director of Community Relations at the SmithLife Homecare. Welcome to the Ask the Expert series. For those unfamiliar with SmithLife Homecare, we are affiliated with Chelsea SmithLife Communities, a reputable elder care brand with over a century of community service. We operate in Washington, D.C. and Montgomery County. The SmithLife Homecare Ask the Expert series is dedicated to sharing essential insights and resources for aging in place. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our esteemed guests, Tyler, Lloyd, and Ilene Gruber, hospice care consultants. Our focus today revolves around Heartland Hospice. And we are delighted to have them both to join us. Thank you for being here and shedding light on your work. Okay, let's jump in with a few questions. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background and your company, Heartland Hospice?
So I'm Ilene Gruber, and I have been with Heartland Hospice as a hospice care consultant for the past 5 years. My background is actually in social work, and I find that with Heartland Hospice, it's all about serving the community, serving our patients in living with quality of life and helping them through the next journey in their own lives. And at Heartland Hospice, that's exactly what we do through a patient-centered approach.
Great, thank you, Ilene. And I'm Tyler Lloyd. I'm also a hospice care consultant. I've been with the company for about 6 months now. Our office out of Beltsville covers Prince George's County as well as Montgomery County, and we have sister offices throughout the area as well. My background is in mental health, substance use, case management, geriatric case management, and now with working with hospice and palliative care. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much again for being here. I love when Ilene said serving. I love that word. You know, like serving is my favorite word on this. What is a palliative care and hospice?
Yeah, so I think it's great to kind of point out the differences of the two for our programs. We have two service lines. We have a nurse practitioner palliative care, and we have hospice. For our nurse practitioner palliative care is for those with advanced disease states who may be still seeking aggressive treatment, like physical therapy, hyperbaric wound chambers, chemotherapy, dialysis, and other treatments, or maybe someone who's just not ready for hospice yet. So it's a nurse practitioner visit in the community, wherever that patient calls home, to work with their team, their doctors or specialists collaboratively and consultatively to increase care and ideally help keep people out of the hospital. Would you like to talk a little bit about our hospice program, Ilene?
Absolutely. Hospice is more about being able to live with quality of life through care, compassion, courageousness, support, and symptom management until end of life. So the difference between the two is where someone is getting aggressive treatment and being able to have that symptom management through the palliative program, hospice is more about that comfort and being able to live when we know that a patient has a terminal illness and may be possibly, and that's the key word with hospice, possibly be 6 months or less, because there is no magic wand or 8 ball to say this date at this time it's going to happen. So that's pretty much the difference between the two.
Thank you for the explanation. We always hear, you know, that people mention palliative care and hospice care, and you just start thinking, what is it really? So thank you so much for that clarification. So what are the main goals of palliative care and hospice care?
At the end of the day, it's trying to keep people healthy, happy in whatever setting of care that they want to be in. For a lot of our patients, that's home. It may be in assisted living, it may be in a skilled nursing facility, but to serve them at the highest level and give them the care and comfort that they need, and ultimately helping to keep them out of the hospital is a great thing too. We want to be able to have people to spend time with their loved ones and those they care about, to have that exhilaration for the end of life and for that process of where they're at. They want to be able to have a great time and be there and be able to be with the people they care about. Would you have anything to add to that?
I think that's exactly well said, Tyler. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head, is that it's being able to live is the bottom line. You know, we all have different journeys There is no journey like anybody else's journey. And with both those programs, there are individual plan of cares that are specific to each patient. And it's not just the patient, it's also the family that's involved. So the care that they receive does involve all of the individuals that are there with that individual patient. And with that individual plan of care, it is very specific to them so that they can have that life, as Tyler was saying.
Going on the same line, how does palliative care differ from hospice care?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So there is overlap. I think when we think of the term palliative, we think of end of life and comfort. But for our service line, the way we like to differentiate that is based on who the qualifications for, the eligibility for, and the treatments that are served. Our palliative care program is served by a nurse practitioner. Visits are once a month, maybe twice a month if the cases are a little more severe. And that nurse practitioner is working collaboratively with the care team to ensure well-being and outcomes. And that looks, the hospice care piece looks a little bit different. There's a lot more players involved in the interdisciplinary team, which I think Ilene can talk a little bit more about as well.
So with the hospice program, where it differentiates is that one of the biggest thing is the payer source, the benefit itself, which a lot of people think that palliative care, hospice care is really a philosophy in care, where they're not. It's actually a benefit that we all pay for during our entire working careers, so that when we need them, they're there for us. And hospice is covered under Medicare A, where palliative is covered under Medicare B. And so that's one of the big differences. And with both levels of the benefit, the difference between the two is, well, let me back up a second. The sameness between them is they're both about symptom management. The differences between the two are the levels of support that they may get from the advantages of having a complete disciplinary team to having a nurse practitioner who is just doing the visits based on what the acuity of the patient's needs are. So an example of that would be with a hospice patient, not only do they have an RN case manager that helps them navigate through this process. One of the things that I always say is that this is their journey, and they're the ones who are driving the bus, really. And the navigator, the nurse case manager, is going to help navigate through this process. And so they're going to be the primary individual that they'll have contact. But there's also a home health aide that comes out. There's a non-denominational chaplain, because we know it's not just about their symptoms. It's about them as a whole person. And we want to make sure that under hospice that we are approaching and helping patients in that whole person-centered of care. There's a social worker, a medical social worker as part of the team as well to help with resources. If there's anything that the family may need, paperwork signed, anything of those natures, plus education and support as well. We have volunteers. We have music therapy, which is a great holistic approach for pain management, anxiety, shortness of breath, anything of that nature. But one of the things that's really different about Heartland Hospice than some of the other hospice companies is all of us have the opportunity to participate through the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, the We Honor Veterans program. And there's different levels of that. At Heartland Hospice, we are actually at the highest level of the 5 stars. And what that allows us to do as well is any of our veteran patients that have served, and not just during wartime, but have also served in general in any way, whether it's a year, 2 years, retirement, we do a pinning ceremony for them to thank them for the services that they provide. And we're also to do a recognition for their spouse if they're still with them, because they may not have served, but they definitely served, so that individual could do what they needed to do, and knowing that everything was good at home. But we also have veteran volunteers for our veterans. We know through research through the VA that a lot of things come forward in end of life, in that journey, that last chapter, I should say, of our journey. And with that, by having a veteran volunteer come out who can relate, who understands, even if there's no conversation, just being present helps those individuals work through some of that closure that they definitely need to help them with that soul injury, which is one of the neat things about that program. And I know I went on a little bit more about the We Honor Veterans program, but it's definitely something that is unique to all hospice providers, but it's definitely near and dear to our hearts, especially with the area that we live in with so many veterans being here. Yeah. And then one of the other parts of the hospice is we also provide bereavement support, whether it's anticipatory bereavement for our patients coming to terms with their immortality, with what's happening to them. None of us want to think about that. And when we start to lose our independence, it becomes more of a reality. And some individuals have a hard time with that. So we can offer anticipatory bereavement. But we don't walk away from families when our patients pass. We are still there to support them, whether it's a phone call, a visit, a support group, a referral, whatever it is that they may need to help them get through the next 13 months, that first year of first, through support for our bereavement.
You're giving us a lot of information, which is really cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So what types of conditions are commonly managed with palliative care and hospice care?
Yeah, so I mean, they both kind of have a subset of different things we're looking at. Hospice has kind of a defined more categories we're looking at, but it is a wider net than I think a lot of people think. I think a lot of people think of hospice, they think of cancer, late stage, metastatic. And that is true. We do serve a lot of patients that have later stage cancers that have progressed. But it isn't just simply that. You know, we serve a lot of patients with dementia concerns and Alzheimer's or Lou Gehrig's disease. It can also be other pieces that are advanced disease states where there isn't really a cure or an option or a treatment, or there may be, but maybe the ramifications of that treatment are harder on the patient than the rewards might be. The family, the patient themselves, if they're still verbal, may decide. So you can think about those sort of things. And it's also the decline trajectory too. It's not just diagnoses. We're also looking at the full picture of story, like what has happened and what has happened in the last 6 months. Are they losing weight? Are they not eating as much? Are they not drinking as much? We're looking into not just the diagnoses, but also the full story. So we gather that piece when we start working with the family to be able to see who might qualify. For palliative, it's those who have advanced disease states that may still be seeking aggressive treatments or may still be trying to work on getting their disease better, or they might not be ready for that hospice benefit yet.
So is accurate to say the care navigator is the one who determines who goes to palliative care and hospice care, or who is the person who decides?
So with both of them, a lot of misconception about palliative care and hospice care that has, based on our society, based on what the programs had been at one point, okay? They're not philosophies. I'm going to go back to the fact that they're both a benefit, which being that they are quantifiable and measurable, okay? And the way that that is determined, like what Tyler was saying, is based on what the big picture looks like. What is the declining trajectory of their disease process? What are those symptoms? But they don't want to know what the here and now is, whether it's hospice or palliative. They want to know big picture. They want to know what the goals of care are for the individual. And then they want to look at what could the life expectancy be based on what that trajectory is of the past year or so, okay? So those are all things that are quantifiable and measurable based on what is happening with that individual. And with the conditions based on that depends on what the goals of care are for that individual. What do they want for themselves? You know, if we're looking at still pursuing aggressive treatment, we want to make sure that they have the option of doing palliative care. So if it's a patient, a prime example would be definitely cancer patients, but also patients who have chronic kidney disease, who may have stage 4 chronic kidney disease. They are definitely eligible for hospice, and they're also eligible for palliative. What differentiates the two would be dialysis. Mm-hmm. So if the patient is continuing to receive dialysis, that is aggressive treatment. So that would be a patient we would want to make sure that we offer palliative care to. And if they're on palliative care and they're receiving that, and at some point they say, okay, I'm tired, I'm done, I just want to have comfort and not receive dialysis anymore, then we would transfer them over to palliative care, because that's not seeking aggressive treatment anymore. It's symptom management. And the other part of that is that not only can they go from palliative care to hospice care, they can go back from hospice care to palliative care. So if you have a patient who is doing really well and is not meeting eligibility under hospice anymore, we graduate them from hospice, which is great, and then we can offer them palliative care. So they may be doing well where they want to receive home health services, physical therapy, occupational therapy. They may the doctor may say, you know what, we have another treatment plan that we want to try. Let's go for it. Then we can have them go over to palliative care to still get that symptom management while they're getting that aggressive treatment. Okay. But they can also then go back to hospice. So with both of the benefits, it's not a use it and lose it. They're always there for the patients.
Yeah.
I would like to get more into that part. How does home care work with palliative care and hospice care?
That's a great question. I think our home care partners are so valuable to our patients. Whether this is palliative or hospice, for palliative, they have that visit once, maybe twice a month. If there's additional support that's needed in between those visits, home care can be a great resource. And they can also refer to us too, if the home care providers are seeing in the community that there might be additional needs more than what they can provide. We can work back and forth both directions together. And then for hospice, we do have aides involved. They're out there a couple of times a week. They scale to the patient's needs, so it can be more or less based on what the current needs are. But yeah, if there's more needs on top of that, that's where home care agencies can staff above and beyond if they need the overnight care, if they need additional supports. So they can fill in some of the gaps that may be there if they need the additional supports beyond what we're able to provide through the hospice benefit. So they're really a valuable partner. We work back and forth closely with many agencies, and it feels, really wraps that person with support. If they're trying to stay home, that allows them to have that ability. If they're trying to stay in independent living, it allows them to do that. If they don't want to be in a hospital or a skilled nursing facility, we can wrap them up with that care and provide a comprehensive, fully, just great care from all angles, from us and home care. And that's a great way to work together with all of that.
I'm going to piggyback on that as well, is that with the home care, especially with working with SmithLife Homecare with the patients, it's about working collectively and collaboratively, like what Tyler was saying, is that the home care providers are with those patients and with their families on a more continuous basis. They see things that are going on day in and day out. And so when our team comes out and provides their service during that time period that they're present, they talk with the providers that are there. They talk with the caregivers to find out what's been going on, what has happened since the last visit to this visit. What are they seeing? We also provide education to them, to the home care providers, so that they know what to look for, who to call in the event. A lot of times families are not local. And so the patient, like Tyler was saying, they want to stay in their own home, be it palliative care or be it hospice. When the patient's on palliative care and home care is involved, a lot of times they're the one taking them to visits to see the physicians. And so they can give that feedback back to our nurse practitioner under the palliative program. And they can also give that information back to the RN case manager for the hospice program, when they do go to the doctors and see a visit. Just because they're on either service, whether it be hospice or palliative, doesn't mean that life stops. They still go on. They still go to doctors. They still see people. And we want to have that collaboration with our home care providers that we work with. And we've been able to do that very successfully with you all at SmithLife.
Thank you so much. Yes, I heard something about that patients that go to hospice, they have a 60% more chance to live longer than patients that don't go to hospice, right? Correct me?
Correct. Yep, that is correct. It's the days, it's actually between 27 and 30 days longer for a patient on hospice than without hospice. We are such social beings, right? We're nurturers by nature as a human being, and we're such social beings that by having that social connection of people coming in and talking with you and seeing you as a person, not as a diagnosis, right? We're not just a diagnosis in a bed. We are people. And by having all of that, be it palliative or hospice, we find that the rate of depression lowers. And they also find that social being also helps with symptom management, less pain, less agitation, less anxiety. And so with that being said, when you have that kind of support, people do live longer than not having that because they have nobody there to help them through those processes.
Yes, and it's wonderful because from my own experience with hospice patients, I know how it's good for the family, for the whole, people involved on this situation to have that support. All of us working together, trying to make the situation, it's difficult as it is. So not having the right person or the right team to reach out and answer those questions is completely, is worse. So it's so wonderful. You're being educating us really well today. A lot of information, even for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So is there anything else that, no?
I was just going to say, I did want to circle back around to a question, and it just popped into my head, is when you were asking about who determines when somebody goes on to palliative care or hospice care. We also forgot about one important person who makes that decision, and that's the patient. The patient decides. The one thing that we need for either one is we need a physician to write the order for the evaluation and admission if applicable, right? If they're eligible for it, but it ultimately comes down to the patient's decision of what they want. It's their right. They have the ability to still make those decisions for themselves, whether it's through advanced directives, whether it's through their MOLST form, their power of attorney, based on what they've asked when they can't make those decisions anymore, or just being able to make that decision in the here and now. That's what we want to make sure that everybody understands, is that they have the right to choose which direction to go in. And we want to support them in that.
Definitely. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for those words, Ilene. Those are really kind words, and everything resumes on that. That is the patient. Finally, is the patient decision. Yes. Yeah. So before we wrap up, we'll provide contact details for Heartland Hospice so you can learn more about their initiatives and reach out to Ilene and Tyler. Thank you all for tuning in, and Tyler and Ilene, your willingness to share these insights with our audience is much appreciated. Thank you so much again. See you next time in the new chapter of the Ask the Expert series. Goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care. Thank you.